So now you should able to see my screen. Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah, we can see your screen.
we have seen how to launch an instance, and we have also discussed all the parameters to launch an instance in the previous class. So what do we do today? We'll quickly launch an instance, okay, and create a web server into that. We'll install a web server into that and then try to access that web server over internet. That we will do quickly and discuss a few things very quickly. Then we'll go to the next session, EBS, okay, the storage in EC2 with respect to EC2. So how to do that? I'm going to EC2 to launch an instance. See how quick we can do, because the first time we have discussed everything about EC2 and we have tried understanding how to launch an instance and what are the parameters we have to set. So now let's go and check. Okay, we are in Sydney region, that's fine. So launch instance. I'm going for that. I've selected Linux AMI. Then okay, that's by default T2 micro instance, which is available for our free tier. And here everything is by default. I'm not going to change anything here. So we need to discuss something more here in this tab, okay, that I did not tell you, but I have to tell you now. So when you come down in this third configuration, configure instances, we have in advanced details, we have something here that's user data. So everything will have two informations like EC2 instance, or when it comes to storage, S3 bucket. Okay, so by default, everything will have a data, a configurational information uh, assigned to that. So that configurational information is known as metadata. For example, when it comes to an EC2 instance, so what type of EC2 instance is it? What is its private IP? What is its public IP? And in which region it is launched? So all this information, configurational stuff, is generally known as metadata. What is this user data? So user data is something that, for example, okay, you wanted a server, and that server should have some other softwares. Now, when we have taken Amazon's AMI, Linux AMI, we got only few, uh, softwares installed in it, like PHP, MySQL, Postgre, okay, Python, Ruby, and all. What if you wanted few more applications to be installed ready-madely into that? What if you wanted your server to be, built for your application? For example, you see, we have discussed something like, you have a web application like your, like we have discussed during demo, we have discussed about rapid elasticity, auto scaling. That auto scaling automatically build the, instances and then keep it ready for your purpose and all. So how is that possible? You know, it is not only enough with these particular applications, but you also needed few more applications to be built in. So how do you do that directly? So that is possible, by selecting user data, and in that user data we mention all the commands. We just give all of our inputs. For example, you wanted to install a web server like Apache, then you just mention, you just give a script here, okay, script install web application, like whatever it is, we will just see in the next minute. So every single thing, what and all you wanted to install, or what and all how your instance wanted to be, that needs to be given here in terms of a script. So that script can be as a text or as a file. Okay, you can have a file uploaded here, or you can just drop your inputs. Uh, okay, that input is already based 64 encoded. So you can just have a code here. Usually what we do is we just keep our code in terms of a text. So you just have anywhere a script, that script is pasted here, so that while launching an instance, it will launch with all the proper configurations and AMI we have selected, and not only that, it will also check the user data if there is anything in that based on the commands we are given. Okay, it will build all the applications. So that is what user data is. But remember, we will be using it in the future. And now storage. Okay, and this is a web server, because we are going to launch web Apache into that. This tagging is up to you, and you can tag any instance. Okay, any instance with 10 additional tags. You can have 10 tags for any instance. Next, security group, I'm going to select from whatever I have. So this is what we have created for ourselves. Then go review launch. See how quick we are able to launch an instance. Then I'll select my key pair, whatever is available with me. That's all. We could able to launch an EC2 instance, and now we will see building a web server into it. So let's wait till it becomes running state. Then so we have discussed like the different type of EC2 instances in terms of revenue model. So we have three instances. That's fine. That's good. People are aware of it. So you're being active. And we also have different type of instances, though it's not very important to remember, have an idea. So those different type of instances with respect to the configuration, T type, M type, okay, C type, R type, G type, I type, and D type. These are the different type of instances based on configuration. So fine, our instance is running. Let's go and launch it. How do we launch an instance? You either take a public IP or copy this entire DNS name. Okay, so I'm taking the public IP, which is very simple. Then go to PuTTY because it's a Linux instance. Copy it. Then take your auth code here, authorization. That's what our PPK file. That's what the PPK file given, right? So yeah, open. And what's the username for to launch an EC2 instance? Yes, guys. What is the username?
EC2 hyphen user.
Fine, that's fine. Guys, please be interactive so that I'll get a confirmation that you're being active and then getting something. So that's fine. EC2 hyphen user. So this is the username every time you try to launch an EC2 instance. Yes, we are ready now. Okay, so what we have decided, what we have planned to do, we are going to install Apache server into that. That's a web server, and try to access that web server over internet. So that is what our basic, then
Okay, like I have a question.
yeah.
You said if you want any user data, you should give in the user command, like typing a
Uh,
launch a web server.
sorry, sorry,
So
so,
Apache.
so, sorry to interrupt you, guy. Could you please speak a little louder?
Okay. You said that we need to give in the user data to if you want launch to Apache web browser,
Yeah.
but you didn't give in that user data.
Yes.
Then
Yes. Now, for now, I did not give it, but in the future, we will be doing it. I said in the future we will be using it and we will be doing it. I just wanted
yeah,
to show you manually everything. How do we
okay,
do that? So for the first
okay,
time, for now, for this time, we will do it. We will just check manually how to do that.
okay,
Okay,
okay.
so here we need to have a little idea about Linux. I hope you all have that idea. So we will see. So first, every time you launch an instance, we will do that. I think Sai spoke to me now. So we will definitely do that. User data only we always take. And it's optional. You want it, you can take. With respect to that user data, you can readily take or launch an instance with all the softwares or applications you wanted to build it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm being a normal user. From this normal user, first I'll turn myself into a root user. So sudo su. So I became a root user. How do you differentiate whether you are a normal user or a root user? So based on this symbol, if you are having a dollar symbol, then it is a normal user. If you have an hash symbol, so this hash symbol will tell you that you are a root user. Now what I'll do, I'll just update my instance. Okay, so first
Can I
thing,
know that? So can I know what is a normal user and what is a root user?
yes, yes. So root user is nothing but he is the owner. He can execute any type of command in terms of Linux. Okay, so he'll have the permission to do any sort of thing in the server. But whereas a normal user will have a certain limitation that he will only be execute few commands, not all. Okay,
Okay.
so that is what the difference between a root user and a normal user. That's why I myself made into a root user, because we are trying to install things into that.
So to make a root user, we should type sudo su.
Yeah, sudo is used. Sudo is nothing but sudo command is used for it's like sudo command will get you the privileges to execute a command on behalf of root user. So normal user cannot execute this situation. Su is nothing but switch user. So I'm switching a user, it's nothing but from myself, from a normal user to root user. So su command, any command when you wanted to execute, every time you should give sudo. Okay, sudo this if you are executing a command being a normal user. So so that is the reason why I made myself a root user, giving this sudo su. Sudo is nothing but to get the privileges to execute that command, and su stands for switch user. So I'm switching myself from a normal user to a root user, so that I don't need to give sudo every time and I execute a command. Now you see I'm going to update my server with all the updated softwares now. So whatever the AMI we have taken, it has so many softwares installed, pre-configured in that. I wanted to update everything to the latest version. So this is the command we use, yum update. But a normal user, when you wanted to execute this by being a normal user, you should use sudo. You may not have permissions to do that, so that you have to use sudo every time. Don't forget that if you are doing it by being a normal user. If you face sometimes people face some issues that they may not be able to execute the commands. So check whether you are being a normal user or root user. If you are doing everything by being a normal user, then use sudo command, sudo with just before your command, so that you will be able to execute, or else make yourself a root user. Okay, so yum update. Yes, I'm updating all my packages, and it will ask for a little confirmation, yes or no. So you say yes. Okay, then enter. So we are updating all the packages. And meanwhile, we'll just discuss. Okay, fine. We have completed. We've updated our server. Now let's go install our web application like Apache server into it. Before that, I'll just clear the screen. And guys, just to confirm myself, uh, are you having any idea about Linux?
Oh, a little bit, sir. For me, a little bit.
That's enough. A little idea is enough that what commands I'm executing, what for it is used. If you have that idea, it's enough. But you need not to be master into that. So to install web application like Apache server into that, what do we do? Yum. Yum is actually a repository. For that to execute this command, you need to have internet connection. So what it will does is Yum is a repository, as I said. It will have all these softwares installed into it. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that, Chaitanya. Don't worry. So Yum is the repository. So from there, whenever you're trying to install something, okay, you use yum command, so it will go check for all the packages or softwares in that repository and then get it for you and install. See, for example, if you are trying to install in a normal Windows machine, what do you do? First you download that applications, okay, a setup file, and then you execute that setup file by double clicking onto that, then go next, and then finally done, finish. So that's how we install something into our Windows machines. But here in Linux machine, we do not do that. We will have repositories wherein all the softwares or all the applications are stored in them, and then we just, whenever we wanted to install, we just call that repository, so it will go check whether it is available in that or not. But yum is a central repository for all the Linux servers, so that it will go check in that, and from there it will get all those executable files and then execute it here. So yum install, okay, and Apache server is http. This is what the Apache server hyphen y. Why hyphen y I'm giving is, now when we are trying to update our packages, just before yum update, it has asked me or it has taken my confirmation whether to install or not, yes or no. Then I had to type yes, why, then go continue. So rather I do something in the middle. I'm initially saying yes, you go do things on behalf of. So don't need to ask me anything for any confirmation. In by default, you just go install everything. That's what I'm saying. Hyphen Y stands for yes. Yes for everything. Go install. So it's installing that web server completed. And it is not only that installing, you always have to check. Here in Linux boxes, you have to check its service. So every application will have its own service. We always need to check whether that service is running or not. So to check that, you use this service, okay, http status. So with this, we are checking whether that Apache server's service is running or not. So it's stopped, isn't it? So this is the reason why I'm checking every. So every time you install something into your local machines or Linux machine or anything, first thing you need to check. In Windows machine, it will ask you to reboot to function your applications properly, right? So here we won't reboot, but we check its service and then we start its service if it is not running. So how do we do that? It's simple. Go to the same command. Okay. Instead of status, you say start. Then you go check its status now. It's running. So this is the difference. Earlier it was stopped. Okay. We have started using the same command, of course, but instead of asking for the status, we have directly commanded it to go start. Then now it's running. Then not only this, like how we reboot to work or to function all the servers or all the applications properly in normal, Windows machine. Here we do not reboot, but we execute a particular command for that, which is restart, which restarts these services like rebooting your machine. It won't reboot, but it will restart your services, kind of rebooting thing. So what is that? It is chk, like check config. Chk stands for config check config http g, that is web server on. This command will reboot this application so that it will function properly. Now what do we do? Of course, we have installed a web server, that is Apache, into our Linux machine. But it's not only enough that you install a web server, but you also have to create web pages. Then only you will be able to access, like when you are trying to access something over internet, you should have something over there, right? So what is that something? So that web applications should have web pages. So that web pages we are going to create now. How do you create web pages? Whenever you create a web server, that is Apache, it will have its root directory. So that root directory we first need to go in and then create our web pages. So the root directory for Apache server is this. So to go into the root directory, change directory, cd command I'm using. Then the root directory is var slash www slash html. This is what the root directory for your web pages or Apache server. So I'm going. So how to check now? You see earlier it was EC user, now it is HTML. So if you wanted to check where you are now currently, you can go with this PWD, which stands for present working directory. So you are now currently in this. So this is what the root directory for your web application. Okay. So let's go. Start or create some web pages into that. So to do that, what I'm doing is I'll use VI editors. So initial I'll take this as index.html. So all the web pages will have an extension that is .html. So this is what I'm going to create. So escape, insert, I'll say hi, all, something I'm just writing randomly. Okay. So that's what. Then I'm going to save this. Um, Yes. So now we have index.html page. Let's go check what is that, or to check a file, what and all or what information it is having in that. So this is what we use more command. So this is information we have. Now let's go check that over internet. So to check what I'm doing, I'll go copy that entire public DNS. So when we access that, we should get it's taking its own time. Let it be. Yes. Index.html, yes, we have created. Fine, I'll get back to you that. That's the actually, the method you have to type, you have to check in. You should take either the public DNS or go to public IP, then, paste it in the other browser, so you should get it. That web server, you should be able to access whatever we have created. So whenever, you check, you will get this data, whatever we have created in index.html, what the data inputs we have given, that will be able to accessed by you. You will get everything in that way. So I'll show you now in some time, why it is behaving this way for the first time. Now, let's go and discuss about volumes. Okay, so volumes is nothing but storage. What is storage? First thing, whenever you create an instance, that instance will have some data, some capacity. The server will have some capacity by default. So that capacity is nothing but storage. So here, for this instance which is running currently, we have taken a storage, a volume of 8 gigabytes, that is with respect to the AMI we have selected. So you wanted an additional, AMIs, volumes to be attached. For example, you wanted to store your data into that. And to store data, you wanted its size storage. So that storage will be provided with an EC2 instance in terms of volumes. So that is what elastic block storage. In our AWS cloud, we have two different type of storages. That's first thing is elastic block storage and S3 storage. Elastic block storage is always, let us try to understand the little difference in between that. So elastic block storage is nothing but the storage which must require your a server, a particular server. So it is just like an additional hard disk or a pen drive kind of thing. So whenever you wanted to access the data, you must require a server or a machine or a box. But whereas S3 storage is something like Google Drive, you upload something into that, okay, and then you can access that from anywhere, wherever you are. So that's a point of, it doesn't require any server. You upload things into the S3 storage and then can access from anywhere. So now let's understand about EBS volume. Okay, so EBS volume is nothing but it's elastic block storage, the storage volume to attach EC2 instances and can create file systems into that. The other additional information is you can create a volume and that volume can be considered as a root volume to, it's nothing but you can also install your softwares into that volume. Okay, so that volume can have all the configurational stuff. You can store all the you can also install databases into that. But whereas S3 storage, you cannot do that. You cannot store your configurational stuff into that. You cannot create, you cannot install any applications into that. So that is the point. Then, as I said, you can just run databases into that. You can store OS. It's nothing but a normal EBS volume can be considered as a root volume. Don't worry, root volume is nothing but a volume which has all the applications installed into that. It's not only applications, even OS. So anything which has all the configuration stuff, like if it comes to Windows machine, your C drive, whichever has all the OS built on and all the softwares installed in. So C program files. So that is what your root directory. So we say here root volume. Root volume is nothing but whichever it has OS installed into it. And this it is actually a disk in the cloud. As I said, an external hard disk. So it is a disk in the cloud. Then it is block level storage. Whereas S3 is an object level storage. We store all the objects into that, but here it is known as the volumes are known as block level storage. In terms of blocks, if we keep the data into that. So that is what an EBS volume stands for. Then the next thing is, we can have multiple volumes attached to a particular instance. So there is no limit in that. It's nothing but you can have any number of pen drives or external hard disks attached to your computer. But the thing is, you cannot attach one single volume to multiple computers or multiple servers at a time. Alright, you can have multiple volumes attached to one particular server, whereas you cannot attach one volume to multiple servers. It's not possible to connect one pen drive to multiple computers at a time. So the same thing is here. So the volumes are considered to be a disk in the cloud. So you can have multiple disks attached to your server, but one disk cannot be attached to multiple servers at a time. But it is also possible in cloud. So how is that possible? Amazon has come up with a really good technology, a mechanism with respect to that. So this is elastic file system. With this elastic file system, you can have one disk attached to multiple servers at a time. So that's really good. Of course, it is still under preview state, but we will see something about that theoretically and check how it is possible. Excuse me. So that is the point. For now, understand you cannot attach multiple, one disk to multiple servers. Now let's go have some, volumes. We already have a server installed. Now we'll create, whenever we have created or launched our instance, we have taken 8 gigabytes of root volume. So I'm just editing this as a root volume. Then I'll go create one more volume that I wanted to attach to my server and check. And here you see the different types. Okay, so volume type is nothing but we have, like how we have different type of instances, even volumes also are of 3 different types. So whenever you are trying to create a volume, it will ask for you to take the choose the type of volume. So the 3 types of volumes are of this type. So first thing is general purpose SSD. The second thing is provisioned IOPS SSD. Then the next one is magnetic. Okay, these two are recently introduced. Let's check what is this. Okay, 20 gigabytes, baseline 40 meg. Okay, but cold HTT 6. Okay, I'll just tell you about all those things. So first, whenever you take general purpose SSD, you try to understand the difference here. The moment I've taken general purpose SSD, and the size of volume, initially it is taking 10 gigabytes, but now what I'll do, I'll just change it to 10 gigabytes. The moment I say I'll click somewhere, this IOPS from 300 turns to 30, sorry 100. It's because per gigabyte, okay, per gigabyte, when you select general purpose SSD, you will have, okay, 10 IOPS by default. So 10 tens are 100, that is what the baseline of 100 IOPS per gigabyte. So where it is always, you have installed something into that, and when you wanted to access that particular information over internet or however you wanted over network, then it will always matters with respect to the throughput we are getting. So how faster we are able to access. If you have something to be accessed over network, then you should have more IOPS to be allocated to that. That's when you can just access something directly. But you don't have, I mean, like there is some data which don't need to access anything, okay, which you where you don't need to access anything, then you better go for magnetic, which will not provide any IOPS. So based on these IOPS, based on these type of volume we take, it will you know uh, vary in terms of charges you pay. So first thing, actually, earlier it used to have the ratio of 3 IOPS per gigabyte, but recently it's new to me. Either it has, the Amazon has changed that limit. 3 IOPS per gigabyte has to from that it has changed to 10 IOPS per gigabyte. So earlier it used to become 30 here the moment you take 10 gigabytes of space, but now it's turned to 100 because 10 tens are, so per gigabyte they are providing you 10 IOPS, and the maximum is 3000. So the maximum is 3000. That's because the limit of your volume can be from 1 gigabyte to the maximum of so much, 1000, sorry, 16,384 gigabytes of space. So this is what the limit of your volume you can take, and the baseline is of 100 IOPS per gigabyte. That's what a general purpose SSD. It is actually designed for 99.99939 of the decimal point availability, and ability to burst up to 3000. So though you have 100 gigabytes here, but it can burst when time comes, when you are trying to access something, it can burst up to 3000 IOPS per gigabyte, okay, for a short period of volume under 1 gigabyte. The next, let's go understand about provisioned IOPS, PIOPS. We will see all that in terms of slides just in a matter. Then this is especially for provisioned IOPS when you wanted to have more than 10,000 IOPS. You see earlier it was baseline 100 IOPS per gigabyte. Now you see here it is minimum of 100 IOPS and maximum of 20,000 IOPS where you wanted more throughput. Okay, huge amount of throughput, then you will be going to that. So you have selected 10 gigabytes here and it has become 300. So each will have, okay, 30. Each will have so turn into 30, so that's 300, right? So 30 gigabytes, sorry, 30 throughput, 30 IOPS throughput you get. That's what but when you take general purpose SSD, you will be able to take only up to 10,000 IOPS. Where you wanted more than that, more than 10,000 IOPS, then you go to provisioned IOPS, but this is slightly charged than general purpose SSD. And cheaper in all is magnetic, which doesn't have any IOPS. You cannot access anything with that. Okay. So that is the point, but let's go with that general purpose SSD only by default, and 10 gigabytes of space I'm taking. And volumes, remember volumes are always region based and especially availability zone based. Whichever the availability zone your instance is created, the same availability zone you have to create your volume, then only you will be able to attach it to that server. If not, you'll not be able to do anything with it. So make sure you create a volume in the same availability zone where your instance is created. So the instance is, now what I'll do, I'll just cancel this for now and try to check where my instance is created. Then go create your instance in the same, it's created in availability zone 2C. So you go create your volume in the same availability zone, go create in the same, then only you'll be able to attach. It's like you have a pen drive, and that pen drive should be with you whenever you have a computer. If you know a computer, then you will not be able to attach it to that. So the computer, now my computer is in 2C region, so availability zone, so I have to do that in the same. Oh, it's 100 gigabytes, I don't need such a huge space. I'll go with 10 gigabytes of space, then go
What is
create.
the difference of
Yes,
giving 10 gigabytes and 100 gigabytes?
it's
Since
the space, the amount of space you wanted to take. 100 gigabytes
so
initially
if
it will give you, but I don't want it such a huge volume.
okay,
Because for a free tier you are allowed to have 30 gigabytes of general purpose SSD volume that we have seen while we create an instance, while we launch an instance. Alright, not today but yesterday
yeah,
and the previous class I have shown you. You remember?
okay,
I'll show
yeah,
you again in a
but
matter of time.
what kind of okay, but what kind of inputs we give for but how we know that we need this much and this much
See, it's up
space?
to you. Based on your requirement, why do we have volumes? See, whenever you work on something in real time, you work on some project, some application you're developing, like your developer develops something. So whenever they work on that, automatically the size of the file increases day by day, and then the volume, whatever the space in your server will be filled gradually. And if you find that you're running short of the space in your server, then you go increase. For example, you have a server with 500 gigabytes of space and that's not being enough. Within how much time it has been used, it is captured totally, that you estimate, and based on the project level, what amount of project is completed so far, based on that you estimate what size of volume you require. So it's up to you. Being an admin, we ourselves have to check, and it's not compulsory that you have to take such a so much of volume or not. It's up to you. You are free to have any amount of volume. within this limit, 1 gigabyte to 16,384 gigabytes. In
So
this
every
limit,
time we can see that. So every time we can see that how much volume we are using, or I mean already used, how much we can left.
yeah, you can check that in the server. We will see that.
Okay.
Okay, we will see that. You can check all the time. You can check, like, if it is a Windows machine, your normal computer, you'll go to my computer and check. The moment you check your my computer, it will show you what amount of space is used in that and what amount of space is left free. All
Okay.
right. So for example, I'll go here and then my computer, I'll just check this PC. So it is showing here my stuff. It is out of 400 gigabytes, now 346 gigabytes free. And in C drive,
Okay.
out of 97, it is now 54 gigabytes free. So this is how you are able to check in Windows machine. In the same way, you'll also be able to check something in okay this server. Okay, the instance whatever we have launched. Okay, the server lost its connection. We have to relaunch it again. Not an issue. So that is the point. So it's always, it is quite simple, dear. It's quite simple not to worry about it. We can easily check. There is a command. We will go check what amount of space is used or what amount of free space is left in that. And based on that, you will easily come to know if there is any space crunch and what amount of space. And it's not only that you yourself individually have to take decision, but it is always decided by somebody in the a real environment, by maybe by your project lead or maybe by your manager or team leader. It is decided and that needs to be approved in real-time scenarios actually. Then you go create such an amount of volume, and usually they request for, okay, my server space is not being enough now, so could you please add another 100 gigabytes of space to that. So that's how also the people request. Then what do you do? You just go create a volume of 100 gigabytes and then attach it to that server. That's all. So it's not we people worry about it, but we obviously get to know what we have to do. So not an issue. Don't worry about that. What size you have to take. But here, since we are just testing something and it is a free tier account, we do not go with huge size volumes because they are charged. So we wanted to test something, that's why I'm just going with a minimum size. So go create, yes. And yeah, if you wanted, there was an option, encryption option. You wanted to encrypt that, you can encrypt by checking this box. Okay, but we don't wanted any encryption now. Now you see we have created a volume, that volume in the same availability zone where our instance is created. Okay, so you see this volume is a root volume. It is actually created from a snapshot. We'll understand what is snapshot. Now the volume which we have created just now, it is now in available state. So whenever you create a volume, it will be in available status by default. When you attach it to some server, then it will turn itself, the status turns into in use state. So how do you do that? First we'll name this as EBS. It's an EBS volume. So I'm just naming it as, it's up to you whatever the name or tag you wanted to give it to that. It's your understanding purpose. So let's go add this to our instance. So how do we do that? Select that volume whichever is created by you. Go to actions, attach that volume. When you say attach that volume in 2C region, what and all the instances running currently will be listed out, but so far we have only one, so that one will be listed. Okay, so this is the server running currently we have taken. And understand one more thing very clearly. Here you see /dev/sdf, but in the Linux server, in the this one instance, when you go and check, it may show you in terms of xvdf. So do not get confused with the naming convention. Though you are taking it SDF, it will turn our scene into XPDF, so do not worry. The next one more volume you take, then XPD, one more name, that P XPDP, something like that, it will be changed into that SDP something. So don't worry. And if you wanted this to be turned into a root device, okay, then you have to change this name convention here so that that volume can be converted into a treated as a root device. So now we are going to attach it to our volume or server, whichever we have. So attached, once we say attached, it is turned into, now you see the status at turned to in use state. So the volume we have created is now in use state. Excuse me. Okay, so let it be ready for us. Now it is of 10 gigabytes. The IOPS is so simple, general purpose. And now you see here, it is showing only 3 IOPS per gigabyte. Usually it is that, I don't know why these people. So let me confirm myself once. Okay, general purpose SSD. You see the information. Yeah, it's given you see clearly. Performance needed of most application and also deliver a consistent baseline of 3 IOPS per gigabyte provisioned. 3 IOPS. Now it is actually working fine. So 3 IOPS. It should come 30. That's what we have seen. 30 IOPS. Now the other two we have recently updated. Usually we had only these three type of volumes that can be created. So the three different type of volumes are, the first one
General
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 purpose
purpose
SSD, the second
provisioned
provisioned
magnetic
IOPS, and the
and
third
magnetic.
magnetic. And of course these two are recently introduced into services. So that is what throughput optimized HDD and cold HDD. So these are the two things. Let's just check. So what is this? The maximum should be, the minimum should be 500 gigabytes when you take throughput optimized HDD. So minimum for, if you want a huge amount, so we need to go with that. That's what you remember. So the throughput is provided 20 IOPS per gigabyte and it bursts up to 123 and baseline is 40 MBs per second per TB. Okay, so make a note of this. So the throughput is in this way, but it is used for a huge volume to be created. That's what we have seen so far. Then cold HDD, let's go check. The difference is for a throughput optimized HDD, it is now 20 and the maximum is 123. When you go with cold HDD, the maximum is 40 and normally it is 6. And let's check what size we can go with. Even for this, it is minimum of 500 gigabyte space we have to take. So remember, for now you remember three different type of volumes we can create and have an idea about these two which are recently introduced. So when I ask you people, please tell me that the types of volumes are three: general purpose SSD, provisioned IOPS, magnetic, and have an idea about throughput optimized HDD and cold HDD. Okay, cans. Now we have created a volume, attached it to our running instance. Let's go check whether it is attached or not. For that, my session has timed out, so I'll go relog into it. Duplicate session I'm going to take.
Can you use that command like restart the session? Can you use that?
Yeah, you can also use that restart session, but sometimes it may work, sometimes it may not. So I'm going out with a duplicate session. So how do we check our volumes attached to it? Let's we always need to check using excuse me, sorry. So this is what the command you have to take whenever you have to check what and all the we have this we have attached to that. So file hyphen s will list sorry, no read permissions. First let us check. Okay, df hyphen h. You see, when you type df hyphen h, we have xpda. So this is the root volume, which is of 8 gigabytes, and 1.2 gigabytes of space is used because all the configurational stuff is installed, the OS is installed, and the other new server which we have installed, new volume which we have attached is not seen here. It's just because, in Linux, whenever we attach a volume, that first needs to be, mounted. Then only you will be able to check that. Without mounting it, it is not possible to check whether your volume is attached to that or not. And moreover, you also have to, create a file system onto that to use that. So what do we do first? We have seen that, okay, with respect to this, we just go create a file system onto that. After once we create file system, we then can mount. Once we mount, then we'll be able to see that here in terms of a root device underneath of that xpdf. So we'll do that, or we'll see some. Okay, till then we'll just go see some stuff here. I wanted to show you some slides. You'll understand things little more clearly about elastic block system, what it is and all. Excuse me. So this is what storage system. It is, as I said, block level storage, and we also have file level storage. The first one is raw volume of storage are created, and each block can be controlled as an individual hard drive. Okay, so the volumes are stored and are created. Each block acts as a single hard drive. Then it is a kind of SAN storage, and think it as a hard drive happen to be installed in a remote chassis and is accessible using fiber channel. So this is where we use a block level storage, and then file level storage is common to storage system, which is found in hard drives, NAS systems and all. Then the storage disk is accessible with a protocol, say NFS, network file system, or SMB or CIF, and these files are stored and accessed from it. And in the block level world, with the block level storage, you need to create a volume, deploy and an OS, and then attach to the, so this is what attach to the created volume. So this is what attach, then make it recognize, okay, then we use it. So in the world, in the file level world, the storage device handles the files and folders on the device directly. You don't need to create and deploy in OS. That is what the difference between block level and file level storages. Then Amazon EBS, so Elastic Block Storage, provides block level storage volumes for use with Amazon EC2 instances only. It must require Amazon EC2 instance when a EBS volume is created. Then what are the uses with that? It provides highly available, highly reliable storage. That's what I said, 99.999% of availability it will provide you. Then particularly suited for applications that require a database, file system, or access to raw block level storage. Then the third one, created in a particular availability zone and can be and from 1 gigabyte to 1 terabyte in size. Of course, it is more than that. That's what we have seen. 16,384 gigabytes of space we can take. It's more than a TV. Then once volume is created, it can be attached to any Amazon EC2 instance in the same availability zone. So this is what you should make a note of. Okay, whenever a volume is created, please make sure that the volume is created in which availability zone your instance is created. Then only you will be able to attach it to that and then use that. If not, you are not possible. It's not possible to use. Then Amazon EBS provides the availability to backup point-in-time snapshots. We'll understand what you mean by snapshot in some time. Just a moment, I'll go get my charger attached to my laptop. Okay, so that's what availability. So Amazon EBS provides availability to backup point-in-time snapshots. So snapshot is nothing but backup. Whenever you wanted a backup, okay, you have a volume and that volume has a critical data. So what if something goes wrong and the data gets corrupted? So for that safer side, what do? We take the backup of that data, and that backup is taken in terms of snapshots. So point in time snapshot, it's nothing but it will capture entire data once whatever it is in there, then later on it will write from that snapshot, whatever the captured snapshot we have taken from there, it will write on to the remote location wherever we route, or we we wanted to write or have a copy of it, and those snapshots will be stored in S3 again. So point in snapshot of your data to Amazon S3 for durable recovery. Whenever you wanted, you can just recover it. So the snapshots are also charged and those are stored in S3. So everything is charged in Amazon, but it is very cheaper. That's what Amazon is very flexible. Then Amazon eBay snapshots are incremental backup. We'll understand what you mean by incremental in few slides. Only the blocks on the device that have changed, okay, blocks. So that's nothing but incremental is nothing but only the blocks on the device that have changed since your last snapshot will be saved. Don't worry, this point we will understand in another slide. Then EBS features. So the first one, it will allow you to create storage volumes from 1 gigabyte to that 16,384 gigabytes of space. Then EV storage is for persistent storage. You can have high availability. Then EBS has high performance and high reliability. Each storage volume is automatically replicated within the same availability zone. Replicated. So you can also have a replication feature. Then storage volumes behave like a raw, unformatted block device. So first, initially when created, they are a raw volume. That raw volume needs to be utilized for our purposes whenever and whatever the more we want it. Then EBS in detail, let's go check. So EBS is what? It's first, EBS is a distributed replicated block data store that is optimized for consistency and low latency read and write access from EC2 instances. Low latency so that you can access your data faster, and read write access from EC2 instances. So you can just read and write anything very fast as possible. Then EBS volumes. So these are the two different things we have seen. EBS volume. Under EBS we have two things, volumes and snapshots. So let's understand what's volume. So volume is nothing but an additional, a block with certain space. So that's what a volume can only be attached to one instance at a time, but many volumes can be attached to a single instance. That's what I have just discussed. And EBS snapshot. The snapshot can also be used to initiate multiple new volumes. So yeah, this is another point. So it's not only for backup thing. Okay, you can take the backup of your volume, but how do we safeguard, or how do we create and get the data back when some volume is corrupted? And it's not only that the volume is corrupted. If the volume is the current volume, the currently utilizing volume, whichever is attached to the instance, is, for example, let's say 100 gigabytes of volume we have, and that 100 gigabytes of space is not being enough for us. So what do? We wanted to extend that. How do we extend? Is it possible to increase the size of volume just like that? It's not possible. So we have to okay extend. It's possible to extend by creating new volume only. And even in physical thing, we, for example, have 1 TB of hard disk, and when we wanted to extend that 1 TB of hard disk to 2 TB, is that possible to extend it just like that? Not possible. So what we have to do? We should go get another 1 TB of hard disk and attach it to that. Or you wanted only one disk to have, only one disk, not two disks. So what do? You go get two disk, 2 TB of hard disk, and dump all the data, whatever you have in your current 1 TB of disk, into that 2 TB of disk. Okay, so that you'll have only one disk of 2 TB with all the data which was there in the previous hard disk. So that is where the snapshots are used. So from snapshot you can create another volume. From the snapshot we can create the volume. The use is, when you create a volume from snapshot, whatever the data, okay, whatever the data we have in that snapshot will be there in that volume. That we will see practically, not to worry. So all that data will be there in the volume. So these are the uses we have with respect to the snapshots. It's not, the first thing is, it is for backup, so that you can have your data very safe. If something goes wrong, you can get that data back. And the snapshots are also useful to create new volumes, so that you can have your data in that new volumes. And while you create a volume from the snapshot, it's not only that you have the data, but you can also extend the size of your volume. For example, the snapshot is of 10 gigabytes. Now we have a volume newly created and attached to our server is of 10 gigabytes, and that 10 gigabytes of volume, when needs to be increased. So what do? If it is full, if it become full, we take the snapshot. So that snapshot is of 10 gigabytes now. And when you are trying to create another new volume from this snapshot, so the data will be there in that, and the 10 gigabytes of data will be there. Then you also will have an option to increase its space. So 10 to 20 or 100 or any size you wanted to take, you can take within the limit you have. So that's what snapshots can also be used to instance multiple new volumes, instantiate multiple new volumes, expand the size of a volume, or move volumes across availability zones. So this is also another use we have. For example, we have created this 10 gigabytes of volume in 2C availability zone. What if you wanted to utilize this in another availability zone? So that's possible. You can also create a volume in another availability zone using this snapshot. It's nothing but when you wanted to access your data from one availability zone to another availability zone, you create a snapshot. From that snapshot, you create another volume into a required availability zone so that you'll be able to access this. Then snapshots can be shared using AWS Management Console or using API calls. You can share those things also. And Amazon EBS is particularly well suited for use as primary storage for a file system, database, or for any applications that require fine granular updates and access to raw unformatted block level storage. So this is what EBS is. Then EBS volumes and zones. Like I said, they are zonal based. So whichever the zone your instance is created, the same zone you have to take your volumes also to be created. And EBS volumes in a single availability zone are, so this one volume 1 in zone A and zone B volume 2. So this is how you can create your things. Then EBS volume life cycle. First, it's unused space. So that is what cloud is having so much of space. From that space, we create a volume. So that's the second stage. From that, once the volume is created, that needs to be attached, and after attaching it, we will be using it. After once we use, if it is getting full, if the volume is getting full, or you wanted to terminate it, or you wanted to have another one, so what do? We do not simply do that. We just take a snapshot of that, so that if that data can be used, so it can be used. And that snapshot, remember, snapshots are always stored in Amazon's S3 bucket. Bucket is nothing but a container where you can store your data. I'm sorry for that disturbance. So after once you create the snapshot, then okay, you can delete that volume so that you can free up your space. Okay, the next, that's the life cycle. Then Amazon EBS back AMI. So I said,
Like
yeah,
S3 has certain limit.
S3 has no limit. You can have unlimited storage, unlimited. Any amount of space you wanted, you can use. But it is charged based on the storage you use, based on the capacity you are using.
Okay.
Okay. We will discuss S3 in detail. Not to worry.
Okay.
So, but EC2, this is the huge topic. So many things we need to understand. It will certainly take so much of time. Once we are done with EC2, think that you are done with 40% of your course. That's what I can say. So EC2 is very important. So understand every single thing in this. And I'm happy if you clarify your doubts whenever it arrives, irrespective of what sort of doubt it is. Because we are learning, so it can be anything. Just get it clarified. That's all.
Yeah.
So Amazon EBS backed AMI ID A100. From this AMI, we are launching an instance. Excuse me. Then running instance. To this running instance, we are attaching volumes. So instance terminated. Once instance terminated, what happens is, if that instance is an EBS backed instance, all your data can be safe. Okay, all your data can be safe. That's what we have two different type of AMIs: EBS backed AMI, instance stored AMI. So an AMI once created from instance stored, I mean, it's nothing but if you create or if you launch an instance from instance stored AMI, okay, it will only have all the data stored in that instance only. Once that instance is terminated, all your data is lost. So that's what instance stored AMI, instance AMIs. But EBS backed AMI, if you launch an instance using EBS backed AMI, you can, have your data safe even after you terminate the instance. So that how it's possible, because EBS backed AMIs will give you an option of taking additional volumes and those volumes can be treated as root volumes. So the volumes will still be there in your regions or availability zones, so that using those volumes you can create another, or you can launch instances in the future, or once the instance is launched in the future you can attach these volumes to that and then access data into that. So that is the point. That's where it is very important. So always when you are worried about data, you better go with EBS backed AMI. But if you are worried about budget, okay, then you better go with instant stored AMI, where you don't require any volumes to be attached to that, so that you can just store everything into that instance only directly. And once it is terminated, you lose your data permanently. Then you see attached initial state volume, AD processing, modified state volume, detached modified state. Okay, once you terminate, it will get detached. Then snapshots, incremental snapshot. We will see. Don't worry, incremental. We have a slide for that. Then key EBS concepts. So these are the key EBS snapshots. Snapshot, so concepts, snapshots, standard and provisioned IOPS volumes, then block size, queue depth. So these are the concepts which we'll be going through. EBS with EC2 and S3. So how EBS interact with EC2 and S3. So this is how it. So in AWS cloud, okay, you create EC2 available EC2 in a particular availability zone, and that EC2 will have multiple EBS volumes. So here you see three different EC2 instances we have, and for these three different EC2 instances we have EBS volumes. And once you take the snapshot of these EBS volumes, they are stored in S3 bucket. And you see, from all these, once you take the snapshot of all these, then from those snapshot you can clone another EBS volume. So this is the EBS volume. We currently, for an example, this EBS volume is selected and taken a snapshot of that. Shilpa, give me some time. Okay, what about others? Shilpa is running out of time. Shall we take some more time and cover this, or we'll postpone it for tomorrow? Guys, you have time? We'll continue our.
I think it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so from you, Sai and Rajita, I know you don't have any problem. That's fine. So, fine. Shilpa, if it is fine, can you please go through the recording sessions? If yes, that's fine. We'll continue. And any doubts, you can just contact me so that I'll clarify. Or whenever you have your, off, that day we can just sit back and then clarify doubts. If it is fine for you. Okay, that's fine. That's fantastic. So this is the EBS volume. From this EBS volume, we have created, a snapshot, and from this snapshot, we are trying to clone. It's nothing but we are creating another EBS volume directly, just like that. So it is possible that you can create any number of volumes from a snapshot, and not only a number of volumes, but also in different availability zone. So why do we need to, create a different volume from the snapshot available? It is just because to create high availability environment. For example, you have a website created and that website's data is there in the volume. You wanted to access this data, okay? If something goes wrong in a particular data center, your website will become down, it will go down. So in order to, safeguard your environment, we create our environment in multiple availability zones, so that if one data center goes down, you can still be able to serve people, or your application will be safe from the other availability zone. That is how it works. Um, then eBay snapshots. So this is where we need to understand. So what are these snapshots? First, create snapshot. That's nothing but backup. So I hope you understand what's backup. Backup is nothing but when you wanted to have an additional copy of your data somewhere, copy paste. So you copy that entire thing and paste somewhere in some other location, so that you'll have a copy of that entire data in your local machine, and an additional copy will be stored somewhere so that you can safeguard your entire thing whenever you want it, however you want it. So excuse me, I'm suffering from some sort of cough today. So that's the point. And next, the backup is dashed. So backup is used in such a way. The next is how this backup is taken. So that is what we need to understand of any Amazon eBay volume. The volume may or may not be attached to a running instance in order to take a snapshot. So you have a flexibility. You can just take a hot backup or cold backup. So cold backup is what you terminate that volume from the instance and take its backup, and hot backup is nothing but without detaching it. Okay, without detaching it, you can just you can take the backup. That is what hotline backup is. Then running instance in order to take snapshot. These snapshots can be used to create multiple new Amazon eBay volumes. That's what we have seen, and can also expand the size of the volume or move volumes across availability zone. The snapshots can be shared with specific AWS account, okay, are made public so that people can use that. If you wanted your data to be used by people, so you can share your snapshots by making them public, and you can use this functionality to increase the size of an existing volume, rapidly replicate deployment and testing environment, or use snapshot copy to copy snapshots to another region for disaster recovery or regional expansion. So it's not only in between availability zones from one to another, but the snapshots are useful to create or or uh, access your data across the region. So what you have to do, take the snapshot of your volume, and that snapshot should be copied into another region, and from that copy of the snapshot you can create a volume and access your data. So that is the possibility. That is how it is used. So this is what I've been talking about in the slide about snapshots and incremental. Now let's understand what's incremental snapshot. So it is actually truly a backup terminology. So, incremental snapshot is nothing but, okay, we have backup of different types: full backup, incremental backup. Full backup is nothing but, irrespective of what it is and how it will capture entire volume just like that and write it whichever the location you provide. And every time it will take the total data copied to the other location you provide. But whereas incremental snapshot refers to, okay, for example, you see here 5th September. It is an older slide, so it is showing some different dates, don't worry. So 5th September, your snapshot 1, SS1 is nothing but snapshot 1. You have taken these 4 blocks data. the snapshot is having 4 blocks, block 1, 2, 3 and 4. And what you have done is snapshot the 6th September when you are trying to take the snapshot, okay, you have only block 1, 2 and 5. It's because, okay, it's because only these three, it's nothing but block 1, block 2 are edited and there is a change in the volume or data from day 1. It's nothing but September 5th to September 6th. So the September 6th, when you are taking the backup or snapshot, it will take only the backup of block 1 and block 2 because there is a change, that is those two things have edited, and block 3, block 4 are not edited, so that those two are not backed up. And additionally one more block is added, some more data is added, that's block 5, so even that is also backed up here on 6th September. And next on 7th September you have edited block 2 again, and block 3 from day 5, it's nothing but 5th day to 7th date. On day 7 you have edited, so block 3 is backed up, and block 6 and another backup is added, additional backup is added, so block 6 is also backed up here. So this is how, okay, this is how it is. Now when you come down here, 1 2 3 4, okay, another snapshot will have block 1, block 5, 2 3 6, so 2 3 and 6 are backed up here. Here block 1 and block 5 are backed up. Excuse me. That is on day 3. So from day 1 to day 3 when you are comparing, so this is how the backup. It's nothing but understand incremental backup is always, okay, will always back up things, only the files which are edited or changed from the previous backup, previous successful backup. If for example in the first case 1 to 4 there are 4 blocks, okay, day 1 you have taken the backup of those 4 blocks and you have not edited anything, day 2 when you are trying to take the backup of something, nothing will be backed up because there is no change in neither of the blocks. So that's what the incremental backup means. So only things which are edited or changed will be backed up. That's what the incremental snapshot. So snapshots are always incremental. Make a note of it. This is important. What type of snapshots? I mean, when a snapshot is taken, what type of snapshot is taken? So you have to say snapshots are always incremental. Then volume types. So this is what we have discussed, different type of volumes. Amazon EBS provides 3 type of storage services based on the throughput or access to the data. So that's general purpose SSD, provision IOPS SSD, then magnetic, which is a standard volume. We have seen what are the purposes, uses here. The general purpose, let's understand everything individually one after the other. So for balance, price and performance, and it is available, see that's what we have seen, 99.999% availability. Excuse me, 10 times more IOPS. Give me a second. Sorry for the break. So 10x, 10 times more IOPS and 1/10 of latency comparing magnetic volume. So if you take a magnet that will not have any throughput, so there may be a chance of latency, Then cost double than magnetics. Of course, when you are getting some faster accessibility, obviously you'll have to pay little higher than the normal volumes. So cost double than magnetic volumes. So that is these prices are older. They obviously have changed, might have changed. So go through the current prices in the pricing, Amazon pricing. You'll just get it in Google or Amazon website itself. So earlier it was 10 cents per gigabyte per month. So that's up. But costs almost double their magnetic volumes. They can burst up to 3000 IOPS. That's what we have seen. Slash 3 is the 3000 always it was seen. So up to 3000 it can burst up. And reliably delivers 3 standard IOPS for every gigabyte of configured storage. For every gigabyte 3, but at times it may go up to 3000 when you're trying to access something. Then best fit for booting an instance faster. So if you wanted your things to be, boot faster or access faster, then we go with this. Then can achieve 4800 IOPS using RAID levels. You have any idea about RAID levels? Yes?
No, sir. No, no idea.
Not to worry, not to worry. RAID levels are nothing but, redundancy purpose. It's nothing but high accessibility and high performance. It comes in Linux. And also to build high availability environments. High availability environments are nothing but where your infrastructure is built in multiple regions, then that is known as high availability. If one goes down, then other can be accessed. The next is provision IOPS volume types. So Amazon EBS enables you to provision a specific level of IOPS performance if desired by choosing a provisioned IOPS volume. This allows you to predictably scale to thousands of IOPS per Amazon EC2 instance. So up to 20,000 IOPS you can have. To maximize the performance of your IO input-output intensive applications designed to meet up the needs of IO intensive workloads, particularly database workloads that are sensitive to storage performance and consistency in random access input-output throughput. So where your data is very sensitive that it needs to be accessed very faster, then this is used. Then Amazon EBS provisions IOPS rate for the lifetime of the volume. Excuse me. Then Amazon EBS currently supports up to 4000 IOPS per volume. So this is very huge, so that we access it very huge. Then stripe multiple volumes together to deliver thousands of IOPS. So it's nothing but stripe multiple volumes is nothing but it consider multiple volumes and access provide IOPS per instance to your application. That's what. And then
What do you
magnet.
mean by lifetime? In the before side, you said a lifetime of the volume IOPS rates for the
Yeah,
volume.
Amazon eBay's provisions IOPS rate for lifetime of the volume. So whatever the amount of time your volume is used for that entire lifetime, okay, these provision IOPS are provided without any issues.
Okay.
So how long, whatever the period of time you try to use this volume, so for that period of time, this provision IOPS that faster access is provided. That it means. Then the original standard volume, so this is magnetic volume, that is a very cheaper one in all the three different types because it will not have any access, any throughput. The original standard volume available with EBS, low cost per gigabyte for data with lower IO required, input output requirement. So where you don't have anything to be accessed, just need to store something into it, then you better go with a magnetic storage, which will cost you very less and can perform all your tasks completely. So this is standard and provisioned IOPS volume types. So volume type, then general purpose, provisioned IOPS, magnetic. So use cases, just go through this slide. Volume size, IOPS performance, API or CLI volume name, pricing. So this is how. Just go through this. Mhm. So there's nothing but what we have discussed so far as given in terms of a table altogether. That's why I said just go through this. Then
So
comparing
what
what
is the mean by API and CLI?
CLI is actually command line interface. Okay, APIs are the similar applications, packages, we can say API calls basic. So whenever you wanted to access something which provides access, which provides permission, in order to have that we use API calls. So with respect to that we can call something or we can access something.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then comparing eBay's volumes. So this is what the comparison for boot volumes, good for applications with lower or moderate IOPS, burst workload may be a good fit. Then magnetic EBS for cost saving, nothing else. You don't need to use for any other purposes. You cannot use for any other purposes except for saving your price budget. Then provision IOPS, we have so much of uses with this. Great for steady IOPS, patterns that needs consistency, good for transitional app that has high and consistent IO need, example database, not always more expensive than standard. Okay, not always more expensive because whenever you are using it is what rate you are using it, based on that it is charged. Be sure to use the IOPS you provision. So IOPS nothing but input output per second. So provisioned IOPS delivers within 10% of the IOPS performance in 99.9% of the time over an year. Example, you have created 100 gigabytes of IOPS with 1000 IOPS. Okay, so 100 gigabytes IOPS with 1000 IOPS, then 99.9% of the limit, sorry, time it will have IOPS higher than 900 IOPS. So that's what lifetime it will have faster access. That's the point. We are just coming to an end. So EBS pricing, since the pricing and all have changed, I'm not going to this. So just check your pricing and all directly. So EBS pricing comparison, just comparison. It is just comparison. You see, so total it is $10, $45. Provision IOPS magnetic. It is just $69. But you see this space striping for five volumes of 20 gigabytes each. So 5 into 100 IOPS. So based on the IOPS, it is charging the storage cost and IOPS. It is just $5. This is $12.5 and this is $10 per month. So the cheaper one is magnetic, obviously. Then encryption. You know anything about encryption? What do you mean by encryption? What for it is does? We do that encryption.
No, sir.
Okay, let me take some time here and explain what is encryption and what for it is used. One second. So remember, encryption is nothing but, okay, if you have some data and fortunately or unfortunately somebody else gets the access, okay, some third party person or some unauthorized people gets the access, the person will be able to use your entire data and can do anything with that, right? So how about even if somebody else gets the access but people will not be able to understand things, what it is? You remember in the first class we tried to convert our key pair from PEM format to PPK format. Then when I have loaded that PM format key pair into Puttigen software, it has given a long list of the combination of numbers and letters and all. Do you remember? Do you get any idea about it? So once understand things like this, whenever you wanted to safeguard your data, though somebody gets the access, people should not be able to understand it. In such situation, we go with encryption. So it will change your entire data into some coding language or some different version of it where nobody understand what it is. Okay, like how you execute some command where our computer always understand in terms of zeros and ones. Okay, so that is turned in that way. So encryption also does things into the other way. So people when gets the access, they do not understand what it is because encryption totally changes your data into another words. Okay, some unusual formats so that nobody can understand. So that's where encryption is done to safeguard your data, security purpose. So encryption, EBS encryption. EBS supports server-side encryption. So server side, what do you mean by server side, client side, about encryption? We'll discuss little more detailedly in S3. When we talk about S3, we discuss that server side, client side. There are different type of encryptions we have. So all that we will discuss there. But so far, for now, you understand server side encryption is nothing but once the data in the server uploaded into the server, you encrypt there, then it is known as server-side encryption. Client-side encryption is nothing but before you upload your data into server, you have to encrypt and then upload into that. So that's client-side. We ourselves have to do that client-side encryption. Server-side, after once it is uploaded into the server, then using some sort of tools, it will be encrypted. That is server-side encryption. So useful for encrypting data at rest. Okay, then no need for additional software to encrypt data performed and managed by Amazon using Amazon Secure Advanced Encryption Service AES 256. Guys, remember wherever you find AES-256, blindly understand it is encryption. It is about encryption. So this is an older technology, AES-256. Using this AES-256 keys, we encrypt the data. So whenever we encrypt the data will provide you some sort of keys. Those keys are, provided to us, and we should maintain them very safely. Whenever we are trying to access our data back, we should provide those keys to Amazon so that it will decrypt. Encrypted data will be decrypted to the normal, format, and that can be accessed by us. So that way, that's how encryption and decryption is done. Does does not work for boot volume as of now. So we cannot encrypt boot volumes. A blank volume can be encrypted, but it if created from unencrypted snapshot. So once understand this way, you have a volume, okay, that volume is encrypted, okay, And while you are creating snapshot, okay, volume is encrypted or not, the volume snapshot you're taking, while you're taking that snapshot, you are encrypting that. If you encrypt your snapshot and when create a volume from that snapshot, the volume will be by defaultly encrypted. Okay. If you do not encrypt your snapshot, so that's what unencrypted snapshot, it will not support encryption. That is what it means. So a blank volume can be encrypted, but if it is created from unencrypted snapshot, it will not support encryption. Then free of cost. So encryption is done for free of cost. There is no charge, so you can do that. You can safeguard your data freely by encrypting. So another few slides, we are in the end. Please bear with me some time. So EBS performance, architecture for performance. So avoid throughput saturatory by maintaining queue depth as per throughput. Striping is nothing but writing. It's one type of writing. Striping is nothing but what you consider multiple volumes as a single volume for your high availability and high redundancy of data. Redundancy of data is nothing but to safeguard your data. For example, now understand striping is like this. This way you understand. Okay, you have two volumes and you're trying to write a word. For example, word only, W-O-R-D. This is the word you wanted to write onto those two disks. So how striping does is, it will not write word totally into one particular volume. What it does, it will write W in one volume, O in other volume, R in other volume, and D in other volume. It's nothing but there are two volumes, volume A and volume B. Let's consider. So volume A, first W will be written, O will be written in volume B, then it will come back to volume A and write R, go to volume B and write D. So that's how your data is written in two different volumes. That will become faster so that you can write your data very faster. It's kind of backup. And if something goes wrong with either of the volumes, you can still get your data back from the other volume which you have. So that's what redundancy says. Then EBS optimized instance, then that's what the architecture for performance. Then achieving consistent performance, that's what using IOPS, pre-warm provisioned IOPS volumes, plan for snapshots from read replica. Okay, replica is something that you replicate your data. Then snapshot performance, of course it will perform how what way you wanted. Like you wanted to create another volume, you wanted to copy it into some other region, you can do that. And architecture performance, then use EBS optimized instance. EBS optimized EC2 instance allocate dedicated bandwidth to its attached EBS standard and provisioned IOPS volumes. As a best practice, we recommend using EBS optimized EC2 instances when attaching a provisioned IOPS volume. So that is what they suggest, EBS optimized instance. And of course, obviously, we choose EBS volumes. Is there any problem without access? Is somebody having any problem with the
No,
network? Yeah, fine, all are here.
yeah.
So, excuse me. Then avoid throughput saturation. So network throughput can be saturated by disk IOs. Choose the instance type that best supports the needed network throughput and calculate the max number of EBS volumes before saturating the network throughput. So for avoiding throughput saturation, we have to go with instance type, and for optimized instances, we go with EBS optimized EC2 instances. So this is what they do, different things. Then achieving consistent performance for plan for snapshots. To minimize the impact of snapshot and performance of a master node, you need to follow two things. These are the two things. Create snapshot from a read replica of your data. Read replica is nothing but what? You always have a second copy of that. You have a volume A, and that volume A will be replicated onto somewhere else. Whichever the data you write into volume A will be replicated, will be copied, will be written somewhere else simultaneously. So that's what replication. So from that replication, if you take snapshot, there will be no issues, no problem with the performance of your master volume, because when you create a snapshot, okay, it may impact your input output operations of your volume. So that's why we say better you always create a snapshot from a read replica rather you directly go create a snapshot from an existing volume which is accessed by people. So when somebody is accessing it and you are trying to create a snapshot in the same moment, then those people may face some issues in accessing the volume or data. Then plan snapshots during off-peak usage. So that's what, since it affects your input output operations, your throughput, it's better to plan to take snapshots during off-peak where people do not use it maximum. During non-business hours, in other words. And it is very easy to take snapshot, of course, just like that. Go create the volume, right click, then you will have an option, snapshot, click on that, it will be our backup in EBS backed instance. When this type of instance is launched, Amazon automatically create an Amazon EBS volume from the associated AMI snapshot, which then becomes the root device. Any changes to the local storage are then persisted in the EBS volume. If you wanted to take the backup of current state, you just need to take the snapshot of current running instance. This will store the current state of volume in snapshot, so you can always create either new volume or instance from the existing snapshot. The new control instance, looks like somebody left. Here I guess. Okay. So you control instance that are running and stopped. You can attach and detach EBS volumes from them, but you can't detach a boot volume from EBS backed AMI instance that is running. But once an EC2 instance has begun shutdown, you no longer control it. Okay, so shutdown, you no longer control. You lost it. You terminate, you lost everything.
Sir, what is boot volume?
Boot volume is simply understand this way, the volume where your OS and all the softwares are installed.
Okay.
Okay, make sense?
Yes, yes, sir.
That's fine. So boot volume is that. Whenever booting is what, how when you are starting your
Yeah,
computer, it will always
yeah,
first load your Windows OS, then it will launch all the applications, make sure everything is working fine. If there is an issue with Windows OS, your computer will not start. So
yes,
booting is that. While booting, it will check every single thing, all the services, whether everything is working fine or right, not up and running, and then it will give you a ready-made, it will start your machine. So let's go deep inside. So two main components of EBS service, EBS clusters, control panel, clusters and control panels. These are used for, high availability, redundancy, and so it is just very deep inside. Let's not crack our brains in this situation. Uh, yeah, free usage tier. This is what we needed. To help new AWS customers get started in cloud, AWS is introducing a new free tier, a new free usage tier. A new AWS customers will be able to run a free Amazon EC2 micro instance for an year while also leveraging a new free usage tier from Amazon S3, Amazon Elastic Block Storage, Amazon Elastic Load Balancing, and Amazon Data Transfer. Are you running out of time? Guys are leaving, or any network issues?
From my side, nothing, sir.
Okay, fine, fine. We'll continue. If they have any issue, then they'll come up with. Then free usage allowed per month. So you can also check this in the AWS directly. 750 hours. It's nothing but you can have one T2 micro instance up and running. Excuse me. Sorry. Throughout the year. So even if you calculate 24 hours per day into 30 days in a month, so 24 into 30, it will give you 720 hours. So even if you run one T2 micro instance up and running totally for about a month and for about a year, you are free. You are not charged anything. But make sure whenever you create an instance, okay, make sure there is only one instance up and running only when you need. It doesn't mean that you can have one instance up and running all the time. So you can, have it. My suggestion is not to have anything. Whatever you create, end of the day, you delete everything and make your account scratch as it is. It is in day one. Okay, because server is free, but what about the volume attached to it? That is charged. You can have only limited amount of volume. So that's why I suggest not to have anything, and please don't upload anything, any personal data into it, because it charges. I mean,
So like
up to a certain
when we
limit
are
you
in
can do
job
that.
also, sir.
Yeah.
When we are in job also.
In job, you why do you use your personal account when you are in job? The first point.
Okay.
And the second point, when you are in job, your office people will provide you their account, that office account. And when you are doing some job, you are certainly hired to do something, to create something in the cloud. So you obviously do. If they ask you to create a server, you create.
Okay.
All right. So we need to know
Yeah.
how to create it, how to use these services. That's what our thing is. And to practice, Amazon is providing a free tier thing. So whatever you wanted to practice, you practice. Once you're done with that, you delete everything. And with that, you'll also have an advantage. What? A number of times you create something, it will sit in your brain concretely. So an EC2 instance,
Yeah.
whenever you wanted to use something, you have to create instance. So creating an instance or creating something for so many number of times, it will make you hands-on, so that when you go to your job, if somebody asks you to do, you will just do on the spot just like that. So please do not keep anything for future purposes. Delete everything. It will safeguard your money. I mean, it will, protect you from charges, and it will also provide you enough experience. So 750 hours of Amazon EC2 Linux or Windows or RHEL, Red Hat, micro instances, T2 micro instances usage. So 613 MB of memory and 32-bit or 64-bit platform support. Enough hours to run consistently each month, of course. So 750 hours of an elastic load balancer, ELB, that we will discuss. This is an important topic. Plus 15 gigabytes of data processing. Then 30 gigabytes of Amazon Elastic Block Storage, EBS. You can have EBS of 30 gigabytes of limit, not more than that. Plus 2 millions IOPS free for your free usage. Then 1 gigabyte of snapshot storage. So this is what the limit. Okay, you can always check that in AWS site. Then connect EC2. So these are the usernames. You can have a copy of this. Okay. So what was the username we have? What is the username we are always logging into our Amazon Linux? That is what,
EC2.
by EC2 hyphen user. So this is the list of usernames and AMI names, legacy or other AMI name if you wanted to use. So this is what. but we probably mostly, go with Amazon line. So mostly we go with Amazon Linux and our Windows machine, very rare. That's the point. The next is then assignments. Okay, this is what your assignment is. You have to do these things. Just go through what you have to do, what you have to become hands-on. End of this session, you should be hands-on. Okay, creating a security key pair for the instances, how to manage security group, launch your own machine in the cloud that you did already. That's really good about it. And how to connect your AWS Linux instance from a Windows machine, that's by using PPK format key pair. How to associate and dissociate an elastic IP. I did not tell you anything about elastic IP, but I'll tell you. Elastic IP. Why do we use elastic IP? So let's understand this way. Whenever, when we create an instance or we launch an instance, by default, it will have two IP addresses, public IP and private IP address. And there is an option that you wanted to have public IP or not. So that's an option, but by default you will be enabled. It is enabled that it will create a public IP. But we have an option that when we don't want it to use our server, we can stop it. It's nothing but temporary shutdown. And again, when we wanted it, we can just stop it, start it back, so that your data is safe. You can function or you can work from where you left it. But every time you stop and start, your public IP changes. Okay, so that's what you have to understand and remember. Every time you stop and start your instance, your IP address changes. Since your IP address changes every time you stop and start, excuse me, it will be a problem when you create a website into it and give that IP address to somebody. Because you stopped and started, IP address changed, those people will not be able to connect you to that. Then it will be a problem. So how do you do that? How do you, uh, rectify it in this situation? It's not only in this situation. Even if you don't want it, while you create, you thought that you don't need any public IP. Okay, that you don't want it to connect that server externally or from outside of your environment. So you did not assign any public IP. But later, after some time, you by some reason, for some reason, you wanted to connect it from somewhere else. So in both these cases, elastic IP is useful. There is a limit of 5 elastic IPs per an account per a region. So you can just create an elastic IP. You can take an elastic IP, and that elastic IP is associated with an EC2 instance. Once it is associated, any number of times, n number of times you stop and start your EC2 instance, your IP address will not change, and it will always, your public IP will be replaced by elastic IP, and that is static. That is static, which means will not change. And even in the second case where you have not taken your public IP but you wanted to connect it from somewhere, in that situation, go directly create an elastic IP and attach it to that on the spot, then connect it from a remote location. Once your work is done, go back and release that elastic IP. So that's how elastic IP works. But remember, once you create an elastic IP and not associated with anything, any instance, you are charged for that. So don't play with elastic IPs. Even if you are trying to play, make sure you delete it. End of the day.
Okay. So once if you delete the EC2 instance, everything will be deleted or no, sir?
Everything will be deleted, but elastic IPs will not be deleted. Elastic IPs you manually go and delete. Because elastic IPs are not created while you create an instance, right? It is created separately, so you have to delete it separately. When you delete your EC2 instance, whatever the data it is in there and whatever the steps you have followed while you create it, those things will be deleted. Got it?
Yes.
Then accessing instance metadata. Metadata is nothing but its configurational part stuff. Installing AWS CLI. This is not shown to you people, so don't worry about it. We will see in the future. How to create, delete Amazon EBS volume. We have seen creating an EBS volume. I'll also show you how to delete. It's nothing but just go right click on that and then delete. Then all this stuff, just go through steps to create EBS snapshots and snapshots. I'll show you tomorrow how to create snapshot and play with them. So rest things we'll see. Now, so we will end up this. Then go back to our server and then play. Oh, it's gone again. Okay, as you asked me, can we restart? Let's check. Login as EC2-user. Yes, it has come. So now what we have done, we have created a volume and attached it, so that we need to check now. So LSBLK, this is what to check what volumes are attached, first point. So it will recognize what and all the volumes attached in the OS level, first point. Then we can check that later on. So we have XVDA, this is root volume, always XVDA is always for root volume or booting volume, anything which has configurational stuff, and XVDF, which we have recently created and attached, that is of 10 gigabytes. But when you type df-h, this is to check what and all are currently being in used, recognized by a server. So you see you have only one XVDA, that root volume. We do not have this new volume attached to it. So what we have to do is we first have to create a file system. Why do we need to create a file system? To make sure, Linux guys, you guys should know this. Anybody? Chandra, Prashant, have you come to this point in your Linux classes? Why do we need to do is whenever a volume is created, by default it is a raw volume. It will not have anything. But this Linux machine needs to understand it has a particular format. Only then it will understand anything you write onto it. So to make use of this raw volume, first we need to create a format, a particular format onto it, so that whenever we write, we'll be able to access it. So to create that format, to have this particular device recognized by and access the data whenever we write it something, we first create a file system onto that. So to create file system, what we do, mkfs, make file system. Okay, this is the command, make a note of mkfs. So hyphen t, people use different commands. Okay, you will get all these commands in the Google, not to worry, but this is what I do, hyphen t. Okay, then ext3, ext3 are usually in real time people go with ext4 file system. But of course, I'm going with the ext3 file system. ext1 and 2 are reserved for your root volume things and all. So we start from ext3, and in real time, people go with Linux admin guys usually go with ext4 file systems and all. So it's different for people to people. And what is my notation? Always you have to take like this /dev. That is what we have seen while we create, our volume, right? Slash, always it is /dev /xvdf. That is what our new volume where we wanted to create, okay, our things. So let's go check, execute this command. No such file or directory. Why no such file or directory? Let's go check this way. SDF. Okay, so what we have to do, okay, let me execute this command. I'll tell you if it is worked out, what for it is used. Yeah, it's the reason is you could not execute that command being a normal user because it was a dollar symbol. Remember? So first
Yeah, yeah, I remember, sir.
yeah, we ourselves
We
have
should
to
get root.
turn a root user or use sudo word before you execute before the command so that you'll get the permission to access that. So what for this command is used? File hyphen yes slash dev slash xvdf. So we are checking whether there is any file system created onto this volume or not. When it comes to data, simply it states that there is no file system created onto it. So we go and create a file system now. mkfs ext3 ext3, then where we are going to create slash dev slash xvdf. This is where we are going to create.
XVDF.
Yes. So now you see it is executing these commands. Now does not exist and no size was specified. No size is specified. Oh, sorry. There's a little difference. Man, I'm sorry for this. Dev etc. Yes, now it's creating. You see, 2 out of 80 and all and all. Now it's created. Now let's go and execute the same command. File hyphen yes. You see, earlier it has come only data, simply data. And now it's showing us the file system, that is ext3 file system data and so and so and so. Fine. Now once after this is done, okay, to recognize this and to be able to use, we need to mount this particular volume somewhere onto some directory. Okay, so to mount, then only after once we mount, then only we'll be able to use this. Okay, so how do we do that? Before you mount, since we need to mount it on a particular directory, understand, since you guys are very fresh, so understand directory is nothing but a folder in our Windows case language. So in Linux we always deal with the data in terms of files and directories. File in Windows is normal file, that can be any file, but directory means a folder in our Windows language. Okay, so we first create a directory, which means in a Windows language a folder, and to that folder or directory we map this volume. So every time we write something into that directory, automatically it will go and store or sit in the volume whichever we are trying to attach to that. So we have to map. That's what is mounting. Am I clear with that? So to do that, what I'm doing, I'm going to create a directory, and to create a directory, we have to use this command. That's what mkdir make directory. Linux guys, you should help me in this. So what directory I'm going to create? I'll create, since it is a volume, I'll create volume directory only. Okay. So volume. So that's what the directory I'm creating. Yes, directory is created. Not this root word. So we go and mount it. Mount. So this command is used. Mount. What you're going to mount? That volume which we have attached. Slash dev slash xvdf. F mount where to this volume, the directory which we have created just now. So this is where we are mounting. Mounting is finished. Now let's go check df-h. You got your new volume. Earlier it was not seen because we have not created a file system and not mounted anywhere. Now we did that and we'll be able to see and we'll be able to use this. So this is how a volume is attached every time and make use. Are you clear with this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. Anything, any doubt you can ask me. If not, we'll end up this session for today. I don't know what's missing in my web server, Apache server. I'll just get back to you with that tomorrow in the first session, tomorrow's class. I'll quickly show you in a matter of 5 times, couple of minutes. Sorry, not 5 times, 5 minutes or couple of minutes time. Quickly, I'll show you. But this is.
Sir, like I did create my account in AWS.
Mm-hmm.
So just go to AWS and create login and create an account. That's it.
Yeah, you must have to create. And guys, remember, if you have purchased anything with Amazon, okay, Amazon e-commerce site, and trying to use the same email ID, it will say the email ID is already existing. So to create your account, first you should go to aws.amazon.com. So that is where you can create your free tier account and use, if you have purchased anything using your email ID, then you already have that account. So use that email ID, type your password, then it will ask you to attach your credit or debit card to it. So you have to attach and then go through the steps, whatever it suggests you to do, you have to do. Okay, end of the day, you just create your account, then start practicing things, then only you will be able to remember. Okay,
Okay, sir.
anything, any doubt in creating your account, you can just contact me. Issue. I mean, you.
So can you attach the slides to the Google Drive so that we can, if we have doubt, we can just look into the PPTs and we can get to know.
PPTs are all theoretical. I don't think they'll help you because there is no screenshot into it, and then you can just directly look into it. What you can do is, however, I'm attaching the video, and in that I'm just showing you theoretical, like lab activities. So that will help you rather. Okay.
If we want some the definitions of something, if we just look into the PPTs, then that is going to be fine, I guess.
That will check back. That will
So
because I this
okay, thank you.
probably I don't share PPTs with somebody, and these PPTs are really valuable. I mean, in fact, I'm about to ask you people whether to use PPTs or directly go. Like how I just did it on the very first day, did something without PPT. So explanation and the lab on the spot. We'll do in that way or go with the PPTs, explain, because it is taking a lot of time. Explain PPTs and then come back, then do everything lab. So how do you want me to do? You want me to go through with the PPTs and then come back and then do perform some lab and all, or you want me to explain while we perform lab?
That would be fine if you just explain it, and just in case if you upload the PPTs, if we have any doubt, we can look into them. Just explain the topics into that. That would save some time
Yeah, that
on explaining the PPTs and
with that, we'll have a particular process and process in sense a particular flow, and with that flow we can understand things without having any issues and can complete things little faster. So fine, but PPTs
Sir, from my side, what are you going with right now is good for me, sir.
with the PPTs.
Yeah, right now how are you going is good for me.
Okay, we'll see. We'll just sort it out. Maybe with a couple of classes.
Yes.
So with the PPTs or without PPTs. I still need to change them, but I'm not sure I'll be sharing PPTs, but I'll just check what I can do. Okay.
Okay.
Videos I can
Okay. Okay.
do, you can just check in that, and any doubt you can clarify in the next session. And you will certainly get
Okay.
doubts when you practice. So I sincerely suggest you to practice every day's activity then and there itself. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I will
fine.
try, sir.
Fine. Thank you then. We'll end
Okay.
the session for today. So this is how it is volumes created, and yeah, I'll show you how to delete this volume. So hold on for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what the volume which we have created. First, before you delete, you should detach this so that the delete option will be highlighted. Yes, detach. Once you detach, it will turn back to available state from in use. Then you go and delete. And you know, when you delete your instance, you terminate your instance, by default this root volume will be deleted, but not this 10 gigabytes of volume which we have created separately. So whichever you do separately, you have to delete separately, like how you have created. Okay, so that's how you have to detach and then delete. Meanwhile, I'll just go and terminate my instance. But not a problem. You can have key pairs and security groups. There is no problem with having key pairs and security groups. And also remember, you can use one key pair and one security group with any number of instances. But the only thing is you should have your key pair in your public machine always, and with that only you'll be able to access. Without that, it's not possible. So that's how you'll be able to delete things. Okay, it's available now. The root volume will be deleted automatically once the instance is terminated. Now go delete. Yes, delete. That's still in use because the instance is not yet shut down. It's shutting down. And so this is how it is used. Okay, fine guys.
Okay.
Catch you tomorrow by same time, 7:30.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay then. Bye. Good day.